And you're live.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tasha Sims,
And I'm Marc Caron.
and you're listening to our radio show, which is normally at Co-op Radio in Vancouver, 100.5 FM, Wednesday night, 6 to 7. But of course, still not able to get into the station because of the current state of affairs. So we're starting off on Facebook. Marc then takes the audio and puts it live on air. So welcome to the show, Conscious Living Radio, and interesting day today, right? It's Remembrance Day, and we're going to kick off kind of taking a look at what is important to remember and focusing on our health in particular, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So let me introduce you to our guest. Many of you, I'm sure, know him. Udo Erasmus is a pioneer of the health and wellness industry, having created flax oil and the healthy fats movement. He's a co-founder of Udo's Choice supplement brand, a global leader in cutting-edge health. It's impacted millions of lives and literally started a health revolution. He's the author of the bestseller, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. He's lectured across all the continents, graced the stage with Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, spearheaded many projects on peace, health, energy, environment, and education. He's got a master's in counseling, studied biochemistry, biology. What else? He loves to talk about key global issues. Maybe we'll even touch on some of those today, but the big key issue is all of us as individuals and as a collective. I know he's also passionate about sustainable energy and water management and healthcare based in nature, including human nature. So we're going to take a look and hopefully get some tips during this challenging time of how we can achieve a greater sense of health, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Welcome to the show, Udo.
Yeah, nice to be on.
So yeah, Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
And I know you grew up, you were born in World War II. You have a really unique history. I wonder if you can share with our listeners a little bit about that. And the question that I really want to enter, what is important to remember on Remembrance Day?
Okay. Yeah, I was born during the Second World War in Europe. And before I was 3, we were refugees fleeing from the communist tanks and trucks out of Poland, where I was born, although it was part of Germany at that time. And the Allies were shooting at us from planes. So we're in the crossfire between the two. And it was pretty hectic. So I have had a big burr up my butt about peace all my life. And so Remembrance Day, we tend to remember, poppies in Flanders fields, the poppies grow between the crosses row on row. I actually have it memorized, and at least most of it. And we actually, my brother did a school assembly one year and decided to do the assembly about what it was like for the civilians, for the mothers and children, not glorifying the war and the soldiers and all of that. And it was profound. We actually posted it. I think it's posted now. I haven't seen it, but posted it. And it was a very, how war affects the people who are not soldiers and not politicians. And nobody gives that story a lot of attention. But maybe if we gave that story more attention, maybe we would just think a little different about, oh yeah, let's just go and have a war. We were very cavalier, especially when we haven't had one.
Yeah, the impact is ripples out and touches absolutely everybody. I know with my mom, who was 9 in the war.
Right.
You're traumatized. I mean, it's going to lead into our discussion around taking care of yourself emotionally, but trauma is trauma. And we ignore that as if, oh, I went and fought and I'm in the war and now I'm moving on. No, you're not. You're carrying it with you unless you do something with that experience.
Even the soldiers come back messed up.
Right.
Even, but everybody's messed up. Like war is just like, it's not like we need it. It's not like war is inevitable. It's only inevitable when we don't cultivate peace. in our lives when we have the luxury to do that.
Well, and here we are with
Here
the
we are.
luxury in an odd way,
Drifting
lots of
downhill.
time with the luxury to do that. And I think what you're saying is so, so important, because tell me what you think about this. I don't know. I don't see a lot of people at the moment. I see more people struggling as a psychotherapist right now than I have before.
Mhm.
And it's as if the feeling for me is people can't get busy and forget about using all the distracting that we're able to do. All those things are gone. And so they're actually feeling what's really happening inside themselves, and therefore experiencing the opposite of peace, which may not be bad news if you actually work with it. However, what I'm seeing is a polarization that is so extreme that it is a war,
Mhm.
both inside oneself and with people who care about each other. Like this whole fracturing and division and these sides that are being formed, those are the ingredients in a war. Two sides think they're right, and now we got to fight it out. That's the foundation of war.
Mhm.
So before we go into the specific areas, emotional, physical,
Mhm.
mental, and spiritual, just on that, do you have any, you say peace, and I'm going to say, okay, well then how do you cultivate peace? What's your number one tool to cultivate peace internally when you are experiencing this polarity or this division inside both yourself and in your community?
I would say sit down, disconnect all your distractions, sit down, become still, feel your breath, breathe lightly, feel what it feels like to be alive. Because all of our conflict is only in the surface of our brain, in our cortex. It's where our ideas live, right? And a cortex works, everything is and everything else is not. So the mind works in duality. The moment you may name something, you've already distinguished it from everything that isn't that. So the moment you name something, you've created duality.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no peace in duality. There's peace in unity.
Right.
So you have to get out of your head in order to get in the direction of peace. And following your breathing is one of the best ways.
We're literally wired, right? The brain is wired for a negative bias. And so
Well,
it will
yeah,
see what's wrong. It's
right,
wired to
right.
perceive what's wrong, what's off, what's this. And what you're talking about is going to a state internally that has no right or wrong. When you're in the state you're
Right.
just described, there, like you say, oneness,
Yeah.
there is no right or wrong. There just is
Mhm.
it there. And so
Mhm.
from that,
Yeah, and we are also wired for peace because
mhm.
our essential nature is peace, unconditional love, contentment, joy, wisdom, insight. Those are built into us, but we have to go there in order to experience them.
And how do you marry that? I think that's what people get confused about. People go, yes, I hear what you're saying, Udo. I know that sounds like meditation. That sounds like, being still. I can do that.
Mhm.
Or I do the other thing. It's like they're separate. There's even in the two things we've just talked about, there's a separation. How do you go to that state of peace and at the same time continue to be engaged, change the world, stand for what's right, have relationships with other humans who see it completely differently, all the tough stuff? Meditating to me is not so tough, like compared to what I just asked you.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So the second step is when you're finished with when you've connected to yourself, then you get up and you drag it out into the world with you. You stay in that space. You don't leave it on the chair. You take it with you. And how do you do that? What does it take to be fully present in all of your being? And there's no reason why you can't be in peace and have a conversation too. There's no reason why you can't be in peace and
Take a
take the
stand.
dirt in the garden.
Right.
But how present are you? Because what we tend to do when we get into doing, we get into the action of doing, and we forget that we're the doers.
Being.
We're the beings that are doing the doing, right?
Mhm.
And so we basically just, it's a matter of focus, right? And it takes practice to focus, being present and inside and outside. It's called simultaneous presence, some people call that. That's the cherished state, fully present in all of my being and in my surroundings. And when I can do that, then my life is amazing, because then I know how to respond. This is not like, oh my God, what do I do? No,
Right.
because that's automatic, and we're wired for that, but
Right.
we're not looking for the wiring, and we are encouraged to not look at that wiring. Why? Because there are lots of people who have other agendas for us other than an agenda of peace for myself and enjoying my life. And if I can make you afraid, then I can, and people are very good at it. Governments are very good at it, create crisis all the time. The fact that COVID has been on television every day since February, March, right? There's an agenda, because whenever mainstream media does a topic for more than 2 days, there's an agenda. You may not know what the agenda is, but there's an agenda, right? And what do I do? Turn off the TV. I did that one day, and I was like, I turned it off, and I was sitting on a chair in my living room. I just looked around and I said, oh my God, there's so much peace here when I turn off the noise box.
And yet,
but I have to turn it off because I turned it on. So I'm piping this stuff into my own life. And I get freaked out about it. And then I try to blame it on somebody else, but I turned on the television.
And also, isn't it practice in using that, what you had said earlier, that if you have peace inside, you're watching your TV, there's no peace there, but you still have a choice.
Yes,
you can
and
get
I
freaked
can
out.
actually, and I do watch television, and I don't get fried by it,
right?
Because I know who's watching, and who's watching has peace.
And that's what I want today's show to keep coming back to.
In our nature,
right?
And
I want to that's brilliant. I want to keep coming back to that because otherwise, everyone's blaming everything external. And I think it's not just stay away from it, turn it off.
No,
we need to understand how to cultivate that even when things are chaos.
Right.
Outside.
I can't blame anybody on the outside for me drifting my awareness, my focus of awareness away from myself.
Exactly.
And I can't get anybody else to bring it back.
Right.
That's my homework.
Right.
That's my homework. And I can maybe get a method from somebody, or I can get a little inspiration to do that, to be reminded from somebody. But the journey to myself is my own homework journey.
Were you going to say something, Marc?
Yeah, I want to go back to the one word that you used that I think is, powerful in today's world is you talked about, your choice to respond.
Right.
Versus react or whatever that is. Because, when we talk about that duality, we get charged up and then we react because we want to be right or feel safe or whatever it is in our beliefs. And, it's a very different place to come from responding than reacting. Right. And maybe can you talk about the difference of that? Like, in our place of peace, what is a peaceful response versus reaction?
Well, I wouldn't say it quite that way. When I react, it's because I'm not present, so that the outside determines my behavior. When I respond, it's because I'm present, and between the stimulus and the response is a choice. But I only see that I have that choice when I'm present in my own space and recognize, because I have all options. I can run, I can fight, I can do nothing. I can trip, I can fall, I can
turn off the TV.
I can turn off, but I'm, if I get into reaction mode, then I'll start fighting with the people on television, even though they're not even in my living room, right? Even though they're just images in my living room.
And to me, my favorite word in the English language is and. Because everything you've just said could all be happening at the same time, and it doesn't mean you're not present. It actually, if you say, I have a reaction and I'm choosing not to act out of it, and like you can keep going and be, you don't have to be something you're not. You just have to be aware of what is and not be driven by it. Hence the word and being so lovely, because I never feel, I used to try, a word I don't like very much. Try,
fails, right?
Try to be more peaceful. Try, like, forget it. You can't try to be more peaceful. They're opposite channels. But and everything goes soft. It's like, yes, I have a reaction right now, and
I wasn't present.
And I'm also present, and I'm at peace, and yeah.
But the thing is, the most incredible thing about peace to me is peace has always already been everywhere. Everything, the entire universe unfolds in peace. The war happens in peace. There's war in the battlefield, inside the warriors, outside the warriors, between them, above them, around them, everywhere. But that's not their focus. Their focus is, you're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. You're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. And so they create a war in peace. And if they experienced the peace that is everywhere, they would put down, they would put down their guns and have lunch together
and sing Kumbaya.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's see if we can break it into the categories. I knew we would have a hard time because we all three understand that health is a holistic system, that you really can't separate the physical from the emotional, from the mental, from the spiritual, and as we were saying earlier, the social, the environmental, they're all health. But let's try. Okay, if you're in.
And I can't separate.
Did you say try, Tasha?
And I said both.
And we will separate them.
And we'll love doing it every single second. Yeah. So let's start with mental, because we're kind of touching on that, what you just said about the soldiers going, okay, peace is our inner state, peace is our nature that at its core, and our thoughts will reflect something else often. And much of that is the past. And when we talked trauma earlier, you are going to see some sort of a reflection of that if you're haven't done any healing around it. So under the category, the umbrella of mental, what is your number one tool or inspiration for our listeners that would help them when they're having a struggle, or maybe something that would help them shift perception when they're attached to it? Now, that's a good one, because I see that everywhere. They think they're right about something.
I would say that the most important thing to remember about thinking is nothing you think is true. Nothing you believe it's true. Everything you think is made up. Either you made it up, or your parents made it up, or your culture made it up, or your religion made it up, or
it's all manufactured, created.
Yeah, it's everything we think, because it's all symbolic. So tree, the word tree, T-R-E-E, doesn't look like a tree. That's the next step, right? Then use the picture of a tree. And then the next tree is to be the tree. So you're two levels of reality removed from reality in the words that you use to in the words that you call things. So it's always in a symbolic realm, and that's not real.
And how would it impact your relationships and the way you communicate if you remembered that everything you think, every opinion you have, every thought is not real?
Well, you certainly wouldn't fight and kill yourself or somebody else
for something that's
or one side of a stupid idea that has another side of the same stupid idea to oppose it. But it's not real. But then when you make it real, when you pretend it's real, then it becomes a direction for you, for your actions, which has outcomes.
That's good. Okay, we're going to have to move into the emotional, because I think you could have that thought and believe it and go, yeah, that's right. I made all this up, or my parents did, or society did. Like it's not fresh. It's coming from somewhere. And then and they're connected. Then there's an emotional reaction to the thought. And I'm pretty sure that if you are awake to what you're thinking, you can feel the correlation. I mean, it's obvious. If you're thinking, wow, what a beautiful day, it's sunny, your body might be relaxed. But if you're thinking any second now, something's going to happen, you tense. So there's a direct, observable reaction and connection that happens.
Okay.
If we're shifting to emotional health, what's the healthy response to those mental thoughts? Because you can't have an absence of them. You've got them. What would be the healthiest response emotionally?
Wow. So emotions, emotions are really complicated. And I've read like a stack of books on emotions, and nobody and these are the professors who write these books, they actually don't know what emotions are. I claim I do. And so here's how it goes.
Let's hope we're in agreement, because I claim I do too.
Okay, no, okay, but yeah, listen, okay. So maybe we could have an argument and have a fight about it.
No, because
even though none of it is true.
We'll use the word and we'll just include both our perceptions of reality, and then we will demonstrate how to have a healthy interaction.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. So to me, emotions are a composite of everything else. And everything else is, number 1 is awareness. Number 2 is life energy. Number 3 is inspiration. Number 4 is the body. Number 5 is survival smarts. Number 6 is social contact or connection, social connection. Number 7 is environment. And number 8 is the big picture of being a temporary, the human body is a terminal condition. Right? To be a terminal condition, living in a small terminal body in an infinite universe, and being okay with that. And when you're okay with each one of those 8, and they each have a different nature and a different function, need a different kind of attention, go off in a different way, and respond to a different kind of intervention. When you are in line with all 8 of those, then your emotion, your dominant emotion, is going to be calm, what do I call it? Calm presence. And when you're off in any one of them, then you start to get the emotions because the emotions are trying to get you back on track. So if you feel like you're on track, then you have positive emotion. And when you feel you're off track, then you have negative emotions.
And
they're a composite of everything else. So emotions are not a thing on their own.
And how do you define the difference between emotion and feeling?
There are feelings that have no mental content, and there are feelings that have mental content. When they have mental content, they're emotions. When they don't have mental content, then they are what do you call it? Signs of life, basically.
Oh, where does intuition come into that?
Intuition is one step out of life energy, because intuition is also is already in pictures, so it's already in the mental realm, right? But life energy is beyond the mental realm. It is in the formless realm, and awareness has no content, but all possibilities.
So one question I have is, do we choose our emotions, whether consciously or unconsciously, or is there something beyond that makes them more innate, or is there a difference?
Well, you have to make a distinction between the ability to have emotions and the emotions you have, because emotions are wired, and a lot of them come from childhood, at a time when everything comes at you. You've already lost your connection to yourself, and so then you get wired, well, if I don't do this, then I don't eat, or when I say this, then I get whacked in the head, or whatever the childhood stories are that make certain things mean certain things in terms of survival.
Can I just drop a little piece in there? Because
Yeah.
we actually are in agreement. To me, emotion is activating the sympathetic nervous system, the fight, flight, freeze. It's like it's happening. It's like a wave. You're not going, it's not based, it's not kind of answering your question, I think, Marc. It's something that occurs. What you do when it occurs then takes us to what you were talking about, Udo, in having health in all those areas. Right.
But also how you got it wired as a kid is not in your control at the time.
Right.
But as an adult, of course, then you can change your emotional state just like that.
Right.
I mean, I never believed it when I first heard that. So it was like a Tony thing, right? And I said, no, that's not true. But then I realized, I was having a fight with my ex. And we were really going at it, and the phone rang, and I was closer to it than she was. I picked up the phone. Hello. I had this very civil conversation with the person about something entirely different, hung it up, and got right back into the argument. So literally like that changed my emotion, right? In accordance to a context.
So there's choice involved, and there's some people couldn't do that. You know that, right? They're the people on the freeway who pull out the gun because you cut them off. Yeah. Their ability to do that does not exist.
Oh, no, I don't. I disagree.
The lower you go on the scale of differentiation, the less space there is between thought and feeling. And sometimes it can be, so, if you're picturing this, so all I'm saying is you're already a little bit up there and you actually have that ability.
Right.
And when you talk about, I think it's something that one can work with, staying in a state. What you demonstrated with the phone is your ability to stay with you and discern the situation, adjust to the situation, then come back to the fight. Like you're still with you in that moment. Whereas I'm saying there are people who don't have that same ease to be able to do that. It's to some people almost impossible.
That's true, because some of our reactions are unconscious. And then we don't see that between the stimulus and the response is a choice.
Exactly.
But the choice is still there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah. It's a narrower margin and harder to.
But then we don't see it, because it's like, what do you mean I chose to be mad? You made me mad.
Exactly.
Right.
So and this becomes,
you made me mad. I'm the victim of your.
And that's just like what we call awakening and expanding in our consciousness, right? To become consciously aware that we actually have that ability to choose. And when we're not even aware that we have that ability, then we're, stuck in a whole different.
Right. Yeah. The more fully present I am of the space that I occupy, the more space is between me and what happens.
And the stimulus.
Then I can respond instead of reacting.
Exactly.
Because then I can choose to take a bad situation and make it better, or I can choose to take a bad situation and make it worse. Right?
Yeah. And go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, here we go.
I knew we were going to have a hard time separating these into categories because we keep weaving them back all together. Honestly, one of the things that space we're talking about, so you can make a different choice. Can we give our listeners something concrete to do? Because we know speaking in that moment before you've made the choice is out. I used to go like this.
Yes.
Like I had to physically with my hand go and zip my mouth because I knew whatever would come out would reflect the feeling inside, but I knew that was not healthy, conscious, loving, or kind. So I would literally go until I could recenter or whatever it is I needed to do. And I wonder if we can name a few things that our listeners can do.
You just modeled two of them.
Yeah,
I know.
One. I was like,
shut up and breathe, baby.
Yeah, because if you decide that you don't want to be living in reaction, and it requires a decision, so you've recognized something, so then you say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And sometimes you have to have something called fierce determination. God damn it, I'm not going to do this anymore. Or you get really mad, right? So that the more energy goes into this decision, the more energy you make the decision, the more likely you are to carry it out. So one of them is you count to 10 before you respond whenever you get mad. Very simple, right? The other one is you take 3 breaths. That's one of the ones you just did, right?
Yeah.
You take a breath. Third one is you decide to let whatever comes at you land so that you can work with it, right? It's always about creating time and space between what comes at you and how you respond. You want to make that space, the bigger you make that space, the more choices you have to pick which of the infinite choices you actually have, you're going to choose.
And I experience that space as a body sensation. To me, it feels like if the climate or the environment inside my body is loving and accepting, doesn't mean it's always at peace, because I'm not. But even if I was agitated, I'm going to receive that agitation with loving curiosity to discover more. And I will get more as I do that. I don't get more when I try not to have it. I get more information about that wounding as I accept it and receive it, and non-judgmentally. I'm just curious about it. And that also creates more space for me, because I have a place now to go. I'm out on you. No, I'm going to come home to me.
Right.
And here I am. And so it's like decorating or cleaning your room to make it beautiful. Create an environment internally that reflects where you want to hang out.
Right.
Be.
And then the other thing that is helpful is that there is a place in your being, in your awareness, in your life energy, and in your inspiration, all 3 of which are beyond the mind and internal as experiences. And when you hang out in that experience, whatever anybody says dissolves before it gets to you, right? Because you know that it's not about you. Only in your head you start thinking, oh, well, this is maybe about me, right? But you know that what's coming at you, someone is expressing their state of emotion or their state of being. And you are not, there's nothing in the rule book that says that you have to respond in kind. And when you're present in that space and you practice being present in that space, and it takes practice, but when you practice in that space, you could pretty much neutralize any argument. Even maybe by just not responding to it, just letting it hang in the air.
Well,
right? And sometimes when you don't respond to what somebody says, they hear what they say, and it's actually good for them to think it over.
And that's what I was thinking about when you talked about that 10 seconds and taking that space. It's good for us. And if we're engaged in an argument or a discussion with someone else, it really helps them because it gives them that space too. Because usually we get caught up in this back and forth and there's no time for even a breath. Especially if it's a heated, argument or whatever that might be, and you give them that space. And it's what I've found is I've practiced that in the past as well, is when you do that, it's interesting to watch the reaction literally of the other person, because they're waiting for your reaction. They're waiting for that. And when you calm down and center, it changes that whole dynamic. It interrupts the whole pattern of the conversation.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I remember I look at myself in the mirror, and I would only find the pimples and what I didn't like, and I didn't like myself. I was not a very happy kid, and so when somebody called me ugly, I would just go into a whole trip, right? And then when I was a little older, I started to do my quiet practice, and somebody said to me, "You're really ugly," and I said, "No, I'm not. I'm really beautiful." And the difference was in how I felt. When I felt beautiful, those insults didn't land anymore. When I didn't feel beautiful, then they were always just confirmation of my truth about myself, right? And so, and the day I said, "No, I'm not, I'm really beautiful," that was the end of me ever getting, taking on somebody insulting me.
The road, though, from your little guy inside believing he's not beautiful and letting it land,
Yeah.
to this place you just described of deep spiritual knowing that you are
Yeah.
beautiful, and we all, as are we all.
Yeah.
That road is also worth, I think, talking about, and that takes us to kind of spiritual health, because
Yeah.
jumping, you can't
Good, you're
jump.
good.
You can't jump from one to the other, right? We call that spiritual bypass, where you just can't leap over the pain and the anguish of that little guy in you that believed he wasn't beautiful, right? That has to be part of the journey. So I wonder if you can comment on that.
Yeah, I think what this is in hindsight, of course. I didn't know that when I was a kid, but where I start these days when people have these kinds of issues is like, remember that there is something in you that is so profoundly magnificent and beautiful. Just remember that it's there, even if you're not experiencing it. Just remember it's there. There's something in you that will never be affected by any drama, any trauma, any of that. Just remember that that's there, and then spend time every day, just like you spend time eating and spend time in the bathroom. Spend time every day doing a little bit of homework, trying to get a little bit closer, like moving a little closer to yourself, into that space, and make that part of your life, and everything will change. But it will take some time. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't, it doesn't mean that you can just bypass that you felt insulted, but recognize there's a place in you that feels insulted, and there's a place in you that cannot be insulted, and recognize both are in you. And when you get good at going from one to the other, then you actually have a choice of how it is for you. And because it all exists within you.
And that I see it also as a portal. The pain or the reaction of the young part of ourselves is like a portal that you can literally enter. And if you feel all those feelings and understand where it came from and bring correction and compassion to that part of you, all of a sudden you're on the other side. You're in the state you're talking about. So it's like, I think it's from Course in Miracles, heaven waits on the other side of fear or the wound, basically. So instead of our impulse to pull away, it's enter it, breathe into it, love it, and then you're in heaven again. Yeah, which is what you were saying, our natural state.
Yeah. You said it better, but no, because if there wasn't negativity in our lives, we probably would just drift and never discover how much more there is.
Right.
If the heart didn't ache, we would get so lost that we would never find our way home again. If we never got hungry when it's time to eat, we would starve to death, because we would not know when it's time to eat. So heartache and what we call it, emotional pain, is a place that's calling you to examine something, to discover, and then in that examination, to discover something more, discover something deeper, discover something bigger. That is also the bomb for the bomb for the bomb, right? The BALM for the BOMB, right? The bomb for the bomb.
So in this umbrella under spirituality, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners that would foster a greater sense of spiritual health? We actually don't usually use the two words together, but I think it's relevant.
Spiritual and health.
Like
spiritual
health.
Spirit is life, energy is perfect health. And awareness is beyond health. So beyond health is also health. Why? Because awareness never gets sick, never dies, even. Life energy cannot be destroyed. cannot get sick. There is no coronavirus on your life energy, your inspiration, or your awareness. So in the middle of something that can affect your body, you have a whole bunch of stuff going on that is more you than your body, and for longer, that is not affected at all. And then out of that comes the peace that gets you unstressed, that makes you less likely to catch it in your body too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was going to say something. Oh yeah. So I sometimes start my conversation by go like this. If I point at you and say, whose body is that? What is your answer? Come on, play with me.
Well, the first thing I would say is mine, but because I know you're playing
Yeah.
with me, I'm
No,
was
that's
looking for a
perfect.
smart but
Perfect.
answer.
That's what most people would say. That's what most people would say. This is my body. But then, do you know what you've just said? You have just told me that you are not the body. You are the owner of the
Right.
body.
That's right.
The body is your possession.
That's
Just like when I say, whose watch is that? Well, this is my watch. Well, I'm not the watch. I'm the owner of the watch. So if you are not the body, but the owner of the body, then who are you?
Yeah.
And you know, that it goes with the saying, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spirits having the human experience. And that's in fact is true.
And I love when we catch ourselves. I think our language can reflect that. And then you make it conscious that you're identifying with the I that never dies. When you call the only I want to say I is that I.
Right.
And what I'm trying to get in the habit of, and what I advocate for my clients, is to say a part of me with whatever the other thing is, because it could be based on your past, could be based on many things. But when you say a part of me feels hurt right now, but I know that there's nothing going on. This is all an illusion. It's not real. So I can choose to help and heal and grow up that part of me, or whatever the choice is. But there's always that distinction of identification.
Yeah, because when you know that your life energy, then you stay, we say, I am hungry. No, I am not hungry. Life doesn't need to be fed, right? But the body needs fuel.
My body's hungry.
Or life is calling you to bring some fuel in so that life can create your body. Or repair, or whatever it is, maintain your body, right? And then you say, I'm not tired, but my body is, because life never sleeps. So when you start thinking about who are you actually, you're beyond all of the things that you spend most of your life doing, right? Because we do almost everything for the body, dress and undress and sleep and go to the bathroom and shower and shave and, and then work to make money to buy more stuff for the body. So we're doing everything for the body, but we are not the body. And then in the end, the body dies anyway. Right. So in order to, like, if you accept that I am life and life is the owner of the body, number one, you might want to get to know that a little better, and that means homework again. And number two, you might have to change everything about how you talk when you're talking about all the things you do that you're not for the body. Right. So, and I do that sometimes. It's like, it's really quite amazing. And I'm sloppy in my word use, but this one, just the one, it's like, whose body is that? Oh, that's my body. It's in the language. What we're trying, what we're recommending people do to live more high quality lives, that recommendation is already in the language that they use, but we use it so unconsciously. That we're not even aware that we're saying we're not the body.
And even in terms of depression or anxiety, I'm depressed.
Exactly.
I'm anxious. Actually, no, my body is experiencing depression, and my body is experiencing anxiety.
Probably my mind.
And I'd like to encourage our listeners, viewers, watchers, to practice what you're speaking of, because I know in my experience, when you do make those shifts in language,
Mhm.
it feels completely different, not just in the body, but even in the spirit. There's a piece that comes with it that shifts really
it's
quick.
true, because it's
Yeah.
congruent.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not sick, just my body is,
Mhm.
I'm not cold, but my body is,
right.
So then is the I really an I, or when our I-ness goes back to universal all sourceness, what
Yeah.
happens to the individual I of I?
It's a flow of molecules and energy.
Which
Right.
is a we.
But you can yeah, but because it depends, who you think you are depends on where you're focused. So you could be focused on a pure awareness. Pure awareness is infinite. So that would be the religious word for that would be God, right? So you are God in that focus. You are life in the energy focus. You are inspiration in the positive mind focus. You are body in the physical dimension. You are a survivor, or in the survival mental function. You are a member in a social group. You are a creature in nature, and you are an infinite speck in an infinite universe. So you are all of those things, but who you think you are is going to depend where your focus goes most of the time, most habitually goes.
So I know we only have a few minutes. I want to make sure that
We have about 6-7 minutes.
Yeah, we traveled the whole universe here.
we did. We went. We just kept moving through the quadrants. Is there anything that occurs to you, Udo, that is important for you to say, and especially in terms of health, considering also the times we're in? I mean, it is a really odd time, and people can't. We're not connected physically the way we were. Anything that you think is important to share with our listeners around health at this time?
Yeah. You can look at COVID as a disaster for your addictions to all kinds of things, hanging out with people, traveling, having your face show, whatever. So it's a disaster in one sense. But that disaster, when you see how much you're addicted to that is not really essential, then it can also be a great gift, because they put the entire human race on a timeout to consider what is really important about life and living and being here and the planet. And that took a couple of months to shut down the planet. COVID did it in two months. None of the great masters were able to do it in their lifetime and all the years that followed. So you have to say, wow, this is like, you could say this is one of the greatest things that's ever happened, if you're able to use it as a way to get more fully present in the place in you that is not affected by it. That's
Very well
cool,
said.
right?
Very, very well said.
And life, the energy that keeps you alive, is unconditional love. 24/7, 365, lifelong, takes care of everything, no matter where your mind goes, no matter where you are, it's taking care of the body in the most magnificent way. And that life energy is the master that the masters talked about. And that master lives in every human being on the planet. Everyone who's alive, the master is running their life. Pretty damn good master.
It's all about whether we're listening or not, right?
Might just be a really good idea to get to know that friend.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, really well said.
Beautiful, Udo. Yeah. Have you got any projects or anything coming up that you want to share with everyone?
I just do lots of podcasts these days because, you know, I used to travel 6 to 9 months a year. And my suitcase is got nothing in it and is rusting. The hinges are rusting.
The wheelie, the
They're made out
wheels
of
have come
plastic,
off.
but they're rusting anyway. So I do podcasts, and I'm really interested. You know, my health picture started with oils, and then I got into digestion, and then I got into physical, and then I started to say, well, what else affects health? And it's like the answer is everything affects health. So you got to give everything its due. That's where my eight-part system comes from. The book on total sexy health, I call it. And I'm really interested in the big picture, and I'm really interested in peace because I see us drifting. I saw it even in the 60s. We're all drifting. And at that time, I didn't know where peace lived. I didn't know it was in me. I didn't know the renewing principle is in me, right? As it is in everybody. And we are in a position now where we could reinvent how we live in the world from presence. And that's, to me, that's what's really interesting.
That's the opportunity, right?
It's an opportunity, and
Yeah.
so many things have been shut down that we've been so habituated to. So then first we go through our addiction withdrawals, and then we can find a much better place from which we can live better and make the world work better. And that's open for 8 billion people. So anything I can do to head people in that direction, that of all the things I'm interested in is what I'm most interested in, because we're wired for it, you know. And it's for 200,000 years we've been screwing it up and messing it up when it could be so incredible, because the nature of being a human being is absolutely, astoundingly, magnificently amazing. You could put a couple more words in there.
Well, you just inspired the name of this show, because Marc at the beginning asked, what do we want to call this show when he puts it up online? And I just, as you were speaking, heard it. Returning home.
Oh, cool.
Let's call it that, Marc.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're talking about, that this is this opportunity, and every moment is an opportunity to return home. And when we're looking at health in all these different areas, that is the state of health, perfect health, right?
And the entire change from the worst world to the best world is a change in the focus of our awareness. That's it. That's all it takes.
I love
Beautiful.
it. Okay, where can our listeners find out more about you? Tell them about your website. I know you've got lots of goodies on there and things to prowl around and learn, explore.
Yeah, I got 2 websites. One is Udo's Choice, udoschoice.com. That's where the products are and the descriptions of the products and why we made them and what they might be able to do. And the second one is called theudo.com, theudo.com, and we have some courses and educational stuff.
I like it. I was just
and I'm on
prowling around
Facebook
there.
and I'm on Instagram, and I got a YouTube channel.
And you've also got UdoErasmus.com too.
That the Udo goes to UdoErasmus.com.
Oh, okay.
It's just nobody can spell Erasmus. the Udo, make it easy. T-H-E, you know.
The Udo.
The Udo. Yeah, there are not many Udos.
I bought some of your oil once, and I had it in the fridge. I hadn't opened it. I forgot I had it. So when I finally realized I had it, it was beyond the expiration date. And I thought, who do I ask? Well, and I thought, oh, I've got your email somewhere. Let me send you anyway, I kept putting it off. And finally I thought, well, I'm going to taste it. Why don't I just taste it? And then I'll know if it goes off or not.
Yeah.
It was off. But it was way past the date.
Oh, okay. And was it awful?
It was bitter.
Yeah.
That's
then,
what happens,
yeah,
right?
Then you pitch it. We say once you open it, it's in the fridge, 1 year shelf life. Once you open it, use it in 8 weeks because air gets in. And these are very, very sensitive oils. They're very good for health, but their sensitivity also makes them perishable.
Right.
And so you treat them like perishable, like veggies.
Well, it has been a delight speaking with you, talking about returning home to health. We could even
Thanks.
add those words to health.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for coming on the show. It's been great.
Yeah, well, thanks for getting me out of bed. I thought we were on at 1, but we were on at 11.
Well, everything
Sometimes
happens for a reason.
My daughter says, Mark is on the phone. He says, you're on at 11. I said, no, I'm on at 1. No, he's on at... Then I looked at my book and then, yeah, it was in there for 11.
And you rolled with it. So
I was
happy
up-
Remembrance Day
I was
to
up
all
till
of you.
3 or 4 in the morning. So.
Remember, I mean, part of the remembering too that we're talking about is who you really are.
Mhm.
Remember who you really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful.
Peace out.
Okay.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us and have a
you.
great holiday Wednesday.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye.
Until next time.